Hello, I'm Steve Dennis, and I'm back with you again to talk about our final letter in our particular acronym that we've been using on REAL. The R stands for relationship, the E stands for encouragement, and the A stands for attitude, and finally the L in our series stands for leadership. And I'm excited to talk about leadership. Here's why: because I believe that every one of us are leaders in some capacity or another. And the neat thing about that whole scenario is this: no matter where you are on the leadership scale, you can actually get better. And my plans or my intentions with this particular DVD, in this particular talk, is to share with you how you can actually increase your influence and increase your ability to lead. You know, a simple definition I have of leadership, and I got some other stuff I want to share with you, but a simple definition of leadership is this: leadership is influence, nothing more or nothing less. And everything rises or falls on leadership. And here's a question I want to share with you as we get ready to get started with this. Would you follow you, and why? And why or why not? What are some characteristics or some traits that you have that will cause you to want to follow you? So as we talk about it today, I'm going to share with you a real unique title. I'm calling this today From the Heart of Leadership. Now think about the word heart. You spell it H-E-A-R-T. And I want you to pay attention, if you would. The last three letters in the word heart are art, A-R-T. And the first two letters in the word heart is H-E. Actually, H-E-A-R, the first four. Hear. Isn't it amazing that based on what you hear will help you to develop the heart, where you can also have the art of being a better leader? So we're going to talk a little bit about that, okay? The heart of leadership. And with the word heart, we're going to talk about the art, how you can learn and develop your own personal art of leading a whole lot better. Okay, so the first quote I want to share with you is: leading or learning to lead better will help you make a positive impact on the world. Isn't that amazing? That all of us, it's important that we learn the importance of leading better. Learning how to lead better today than you did on yesterday. Here's the second one. Leaders become great. I love this one. Leaders become great not because of their power, but because of their ability to empower others. So you don't become great because of your own personal power, but because of your ability to empower other people, those who will follow you. And here's some other statements on leadership. Leadership is the willingness to put oneself at risk. Leadership is the passion to make a difference with others. Leadership is taking responsibility while others are making excuses. Leadership is seeing the possibilities in a situation while others are seeing the limitations. And then finally, here's another one. Leadership is an open mind and an open heart. Oh, I love it. So we're going to talk a little bit about leadership and how you and I can develop the art of leadership as we talk about leadership from the heart. All right, here we go. Let's get started. You know, there's a verse of scripture that says this: train up a child in the way he should go. When he's older, he won't depart from it. I'm going to use that phrase from the book of Proverbs as somewhat of a pattern or an outline, if you will, as I talk to you today about three keys that I believe every leader should have. And those three keys, I basically extracted those keys from my own personal experience of being a father. I happen to be a father of three kids, and actually at this particular recording, my youngest son will graduate from high school this upcoming weekend. And one of the experiences I've had with my 30, 25, and 18-year-old, all three of my kids, is I've been pretty active in their lives as far as Christmas and taking them to the park and having fun and playing and all that kind of stuff. And one of the things that took place, and I want to share this with you as it relates to leading from the heart, and at the same time some principles I picked up from being a parent. Because if you're a parent, if you're a grandparent, if you are an uncle and an aunt, then guess what? There are people who are looking at you. They're following you. and they're also leaning on your influence, and your ability to influence them, again, is leadership. Okay, so anyway, as a parent, one of the things I knew that was going to be important, 3 keys, and the first one was simply this, is that I had to learn the importance of how to model the behavior I wanted my kids to imitate. Okay, here's a funny story. Years ago, when my oldest daughter was about 4 years old, we were watching a movie on VHS. And for those of you who don't know what VHS is, it's the video. It came out way before the DVDs came out. Man, I was excited the first time a video where you could go to the Blockbuster or some other store and rent a video and watch the movie that you just saw at the picture show. Oh, I'm sorry, not the picture show, but the theater. You could watch it at the theater. You could watch that same movie at your house. And we were watching a movie. It had Arnold Schwarzenegger in it. He was beating up this guy, you know, and in the process of it, the guy used some profanity at Arnold. And Arnold turned right around and used that same profanity back at the guy he was beating up. Well, my little 4-year-old was in her room playing with her little dogs, but she overheard that word, the F word is what the word was. She actually overheard that word, and then later on that night, she was taking her 2 dogs and letting them fight each other, and she was using that same F word. Now, she didn't hear that from me, but she did hear it from the TV. And the important lesson I learned was this, is that kids will actually emanate, or they will actually demonstrate the same type of behavior that they've seen modeled before them. And again, in this case, it wasn't necessarily that I was doing it, but I'm the leader, and I was responsible for what was going into her ears and what she was able to see and all of that. So I had to talk with her about, you know, baby, we don't use those kind of words, Daddy don't use those kind of words, so forth and so on. But here's my point, they will pick up, those who are following you will pick up character traits and behaviors and attitudes by watching the kind of behavior that you are modeling. Okay, so modeling, and a good, and you know this as well as I do, a good example is worth 1,000 sermons. Isn't that good? You've heard it before. I'd rather see a sermon any day than to hear one. What you do has more impact on your child than all the lectures that you could ever give. Now, let's take the same process or the same concept of modeling and let's make it applicable into business work. When you are a leader at your job or leader in your organization or your corporation, what you are modeling will oftentimes determine the level of morale within your organization. So if you're modeling high-spirited, good attitude, healthy attitudes, then the people who are following you oftentimes will pick up your behavior and your vibes. But oftentimes if you're negative as a leader, guess what happens? Everybody else. In other words, leaders set the course, leaders go first, and based on the kind of atmosphere or the type of temperature that you're setting in your organization, everybody else will model your behavior. So number 1 again is modeling. Number 2, I learned this as a parent as well, and that is management. Management. Good management is the ability to discern the uniqueness of a child, an employee, a spouse, whoever, etc., and to teach them accordingly to their particular strength zone. Now, here's what I mean by that. I have 3 kids, and all 3 of them are different. As I was raising them, all 3 are different, and I had to learn what their strengths and weaknesses were, so I couldn't. So in other words, you can't always compare them to one another, but you have to know what their strengths and their weaknesses are, and your management of their behavior or management of their uniqueness is based on recognizing what they're good at. Okay. Now, here's what I mean by that. Management, your ability to discern the uniqueness of all of your employees or anybody who's following you. For those of you in a church setting, nonprofit organization, it's the same thing. You're leading volunteers. And there's some volunteers who may have a different skill set than others. Personalities are different. But your ability to manage or to recognize the uniqueness of each person that you're leading will help you with management. So let's go back to the first one. Modeling, and number 2, management. And you know as well as I do, You can manage another person's uniqueness when you learn how to manage your very own. Here's another story I want to share with you on that note. As a parent again, and again, I'm taking these leadership principles, if you will, and making them applicable, how we can actually use them in any capacity, because here's what I believe: leadership is universal. I mean, the principles of leadership, you can teach them in any time frame, any people group, and you can always get results. They're universal principles. They have always been around, nothing new, but at the same time, they will be around when you and I are gone. But here's an example of what I mean by management. Now, understanding the uniqueness of someone else. Actually, it's a story about a friend of mine who's actually a leader at her organization. And she was telling me about the time that one of their employees committed suicide. And in the process of committing suicide, the employee committed suicide, some of the other employees, they were having a very difficult time following her, oftentimes because she was a woman, and most of these people who she was leading are men. Okay, but she told me this, that when the one employee committed suicide, he was having some severe family problems and issues with depression, that kind of thing. But when that happened, she talked about how she rallied all the employees together and shared with them her concern for all of them and their families, and at the same time, her support. I actually saw her in action at the funeral of the young man who, again, committed suicide. And at this funeral, I watched her as she walked up to each one of the other co-workers who worked very closely with this young man, and she embraced them and hugged them. And I thought, you know, that's a leader in action right there. She's hugging them, in other words, bringing comfort to them and letting them know, I'm not just here to give you instructions or advice and how we are in the work world, but even here at this funeral where we're all as a family are gathered together in a situation that is not the most comfortable situation in the whole world. In other words, this is when the chips are down. But yet, here's a principle for you. Even when the chips are down, that's when good leaders rise up. You know this as well as I do. When I'm watching movies and shows about a sailor or captain of a ship, captains of ships do not become skilled captains when everything is going smooth. It's only during the storm. When the storms are rising, the waves are big, the tides are high, that's when a skilled sailor becomes a skilled sailor. And I guess feedback for you and I would be this: how to take advantage of the storms of life, right?